one of the greatest grunge albums ever. Their very first album. I got it back in. Plus a record store that you swear to God could be a museum. It is that cool. Let's take a look, see what I got. I'm in downtown Detroit, or just off of downtown Detroit, and this is People's Records. You can see that. They've been open for 20 years. They've been in this location since 2015. It is used. Just kind of show you the neighborhood here. You talk about used records, they have tons of it. Lots of funk, lots of soul, and 45s. Oh my God, it's the most 45s I have ever seen. Really neat shop. I finally got down here. Dave, the VC ambassador, has been at me to try to get here, and I'm glad I did. Very, very neat. begin with the store. People's Records. People's Records. Pretty nice. I love the nice long sleeve. For a guy like me that's cold all the time, it's really good. As I mentioned at the beginning of that, Dave, the VC Ambassadors, been trying to get me down there quite often. And even Martin Jones, who's from Detroit, has mentioned it, but I just haven't ever gotten there because it's really right down by downtown, and I don't go that way that often. But I did it. And all I could say is, wow. I've never seen that many 45 RPM records in my life. I mean, boxes and boxes and boxes and stacks of them. It was, if you love 45s, this was like manna from heaven. Incredible. But what really got me is this place is like a museum. All the artifacts that they have collected there. As you could see, those walls were packed with pictures. There's gold records. They've found them. People have come in. They've sold them. Someone else had it. Whatever it may be. Some incredible pictures from Motown. You could go in there and just enjoy looking around. Which is, you know what? I spent probably more time looking at the walls and just seeing what was there than actually digging for vinyl. And there's plenty of vinyl to be had. Soul, funk, huge. A lot of jazz was in there. Everything else. Really fun store. People's Records. Very impressive. And I hope you enjoyed that. So now let's get into I'm going on the wrong video. Albums I brought back into my collection. That's what we're going to do. I've got it. Let's just start with a huge one. This is a 90s classic. And I had an original. And now I got the original back. And it's Pearl Jam's 10. So let's just take a look here. This was the original I had before the flood, but the cover didn't make it. Well, guess what? Another original shows up. Now that gets to be spendy. Now I have two originals, just one without a cover. But it's important. And this, I was very excited to get this and see this. And I got it at my local store, Radio Wasteland. You got the inner sleeve. Very nice. When you think about this album, you know, it came out in 1991. Nirvana had already brought grunge to the world. To me, this is the album that kind of sealed the deal and said, okay, grunge is here to stay. And what made Pearl Jam, I think what the radio stations liked about Pearl Jam is Nirvana was kind of punk. Then you had like Alice in Chains and Soundgarden. They were kind of metal. I mean, a lot harder. This was easier to swallow. And it had something to say. I mean, when you think about what's on here, they talk about abortion, homelessness, gun violence, childhood trauma. All that's in here. You know, yay, happy sunshiny album. Eddie Vedder, his vocals, I mean, they are pure passion and filled with conviction. He means what he's singing. At least that's what it sure comes off as. And then there's Mike McCready and his guitar style. When I think of his guitars, you think of Clapton and Hendrix, but take out the blues influence. And he has those kind of licks and solos happening. This is a flawlessly executed album. It's one of those absolute great albums. The debut album that was just perfect. You know, you had on here Even Flow, Jeremy's on here. Just those two alone. Fantastic. So happy to get this in. Now I got two original albums of the vinyl. Okay, I got one to scratch. From 83, happy to bring this one back. The Waterboys. This is the first one. Big Music. That's what it was, Big Music. When you think about this album, Big Music, it's like taking part Van Morrison and taking part U2 and putting them together. I mean, the music on here, it's sweeping. It's romantic. It is, it's just stretched to epic lengths. I mean, some of these songs, and it's just it takes like rock and then the Celtic sounds and puts them together. Now it's much more rock. When you get Fisherman Blues, there the Celtic sounds really start to take over. Just a wonderful debut from the Waterboys. They put this thing out, and it really said this is a group that's important, someone to listen to. So great to bring that one back. A couple. Oh, these were fun pickups to get back in. And we'll just start with this. REM's Chronic Town. And of course this has, it doesn't have, I thought this one had, yeah. I thought I had Radio Europe on here, guess not. All right, yeah, shows what I know. Okay, so this is the first EP comes out, and we got Wolf's Lover, Gardening Night, and we have 1 Million, Stumble. When you look at Chronic Town, it was kind of like a garage band playing jangly pop songs. And that's kind of my impression of it. You know, the music was melodic, it was memorable, and the vocals were extremely mumbled. So it came out in '83. It came out in '82. This introduced the world to REM. You know, they'd been down in Athens. They've been trying to figure out what they were going to do. They started as a punk band, but then the Athens scene was changing, and they were watching and listening, going, okay, we need to change what we're doing. And they did. They changed up their style to come up with more what they do here, which was much more kind of bohemian, which was happening down in Athens. Then, in 1983, this masterpiece of a full-length debut, Murmur. And they kind of, when you think about the garage jangle pop, they kind of left that behind now. And instead, Peter Buck really came in with that ringing guitar sound that he became famous for. You hear it on here, and it became their absolute distinctive sound, what they were all about. The production is very atmospheric, not much on here, quite beautiful, and it was really music that was very hard to pigeonhole. And on here you do have Radio Free Europe is on this, which is just a wonderful, cool song. When this came out, it was like, wow, this is so different. And it was, Chronic Town just opened up, said, okay, this is new. There was nothing like it. It was so out there. It really began to influence other bands. And again, Buck's guitar playing was incredible. It's just so different. And of course, Stipe's vocal delivery. Murmur, just another one of those outstanding first full-length albums. Kind of like with what we had with Pearl Jam. I was so happy to finally get this one. And I've been looking, and finally it showed up. It used to be easy to find in bargain bins, and now it's not. But Robert Plant's Now and Zen. This was his fourth solo album. This one came out in '88. This is the one, if you want one Plant, because on this, he finally came to terms with his past. He finally accepted that, Led Zeppelin, I will always be associated with Led Zeppelin. And thus he had Jimmy Page come in and play on Tall Cool One, which is so Zeppelin, so fun, so incredible. One of those all-time great songs, Tall Cool One. And that's why I had to have this one. There's a lot. I used to have all the Robert Plant solo albums. Not doing that now. And there's just not room for them. But this one, I needed to have this one. There's the beautiful ballad Ship of Fools is on here. Mostly this album's full of mid-tempo rockers and very radio friendly, made for the radio. But if I had to ever say there was one Robert Plant solo album, by far this one, the best. I was happy to find this one. My Life in the Bush. There was my original that I had. I saved the vinyl on that, but did get another one. With David Byrne and Brian Eno going out into the world and recording things. Getting the sounds that they were hearing. No inner sleeve. That's just a boring one. My favorite on here was the Jezebel Spirit, where they did an exorcism. But what is cool on this album is the groove. And you could hear where Talking Heads was going as they were moving into Remain in Light. It was that groove. And it's this propulsive African Fela Kuti type groove, and it's happening on here. But there's just so much fun stuff happening with all these, vocal recordings that they took from things that they were hearing, people talking, and fascinating album. Just, it was so much fun. And it was, again, the blueprint for the very next Talking Heads album. So really happy to have that one. A twofer. I got these two when I went down. I looked at that record collection in the basement, and I only, bought some of the albums. We had Stevie Wonder's Music on My Mind. When this came out, this was 1972 it came out. Stevie Wonder had just redone his contract with Motown. And he had told Motown, listen, I want creative control. No special things on the inner sleeve. And I want to be able to do what I want to do, my own thing, like Marvin Gaye, like Isaac Hayes, and I want to say something. Because his albums were 2-3 hits and the rest was filler. Now he was going to say, we're going to make something. And this really was the first one of that. Is there any, what I call a standout track on this? No, I like Superwoman. That was pretty good. But Talking Book was the next one. This was his first foray. And it's a very, very good album. It's not as good as Talking Book. It's not as good as Superstition. But still, excellent album. Because we're into Stevie Wonder's prime period. That was the beginning of Stevie Wonder's prime. To me, this is the end of it. Now, he had other great albums, but this was the big finale, really, when you look at it. And this is Songs in the Key of Life. Another Gateful. Here he decided we're doing a 2-record set, which he did. So it was a lot of music. And on here you have Sir Duke, you have I Wish, and you have Isn't She Lovely. It came with a nice book, which for whatever reason is upside down. But if you turn your whatever you're watching upside down, you could see it. So there we just got the lyrics in there. Nothing special. It also came with a 45. And I'm looking for that 45. It's in here somewhere. And there it is. A nice little 45. And Saturn and Ebony Eyes are on there. So this was, he really put out, again, 2 albums. You always, okay, do I really need 2 full albums? But he really was at his creative peak. When you heard the other one, Music of My Mind, you could hear the funk. He really came on strong with funk. Here we're moving away from some of that funk and moving into other directions. And that's where I think the next one, Music for Plants, came, and he really began to go out there. But he's changing things up on this. But he did have some, really big hits. So a couple great Stevie Wonder albums. It's another one, I just think you should have in a collection. Al Green's Greatest Hits, 70s soul. Al Green has lots of albums. There's a couple of them that, are worthy of having. But otherwise, this takes care of me. I'm still in love with you. Here I come. Call Me is on here. Let's Stay Together. Just great stuff. This is not an original. It's a nice reissue. But really happy to have it because sometimes you just want to listen to a little Al Green. And there it is. Next one is Deals. This was... This is pure nostalgia. This is the very first Toto album. And this came out in 1978. And when this came out, it was in the spring of 78. And Hold the Line hit the radio. And I was so blown away by that. My older brother was blown away by that. Our car, we had a 55 Chevy. We bought it from our dad. It had no radio. It had nothing else. But I had a boom box. So I taped this album. We just put it on cassette tape and threw that in there. And me and my brother, as we would go, from college back home, we were actually roommates, we would play this album because it was so good. It is dated. It honestly sounds very dated now, but Hold the Line is still phenomenal. Rock Maker, great song. I'll Supply the Love, okay, a little dated, but still fun. This is about pure memories. And it's the best Toto album in my book. And yes, there's Africa, but it just got overplayed. I love this one. And if I needed a Toto album, that's it. Another one that came out. Did I need it? Timbuk3. Came out in 86. Of course, Future So Bright, I Gotta Wear Shades, about nuclear war. We're all going to die anyway. Future So Bright, I Gotta Wear Shades. So we got even a hype sticker stuck on there. This is an okay album. It's one of those college radio rock ones that was fun, but I didn't spin it a lot. But you can find it's dirt cheap, and I thought, oh, what the heck, guys. So I bought it. I have, obviously, that song on the compilations from the 80s because it was part of the 80s. So I could have laughed at that, but I bought it. And the final one, and again, the question marks once in a while. You see something in a bargain bin, you go, but I bought this Eurythmics, and this is Savage, and has the song I Need a Man. Now, personally, the song I Need a Man from the Eurythmics, it's a hard rocking song. I think it's one of their best songs. It's just screaming guitars on there, and Annie Lennox's voice is great. But overall, the album's just not that great. 5 stars, give it a 2 or something. They're getting to the end of their life, of what's really going on. I think their creative juices are dying. They brought back more synth in here. They had a few before this that was more hard rocking. It just, a greatest hits, I Need a Man. That would have it. Is there anything else on this album I need? Not really. And so this is one of these, I bought it. Now I have to make room somewhere in this smaller record collection for it. Or do I even keep it? Those are the questions. So I think I bought this at People's. I was just trying to find a few albums to buy because I like to do that. That happens. So there we go. That's our that's the wrap up. I hope you enjoyed it. I appreciate you sticking with me and going along. Have a good one. Bye.